A young nurse dived into the swimming pool to save the life of a drowning child, unaware his dad was the new mayor. Just 24 hours later, her life was changed forever. It was a busy afternoon at St. Mary's Hospital when Pamela decided to go on her lunch break. She never knew what was waiting for her. Pamela, a young nurse in her mid-20s, had been on her feet all morning. The hospital was swamped with patients, and the constant beeping of monitors and ringing of phones had left her drained. She welcomed the chance to step away for a short break, hoping to clear her head. She chose a fancy outdoor restaurant nearby. It was a beautiful day, the sky a soft blue, and the sun casting a warm glow over the city. Pamela sat at a quiet table near the pool, wearing her work scrubs under a light jacket. Soft classical music drifted through the air, mixing with the gentle hum of conversation from other patrons. She ordered a light meal and allowed herself to relax for the first time in hours. As she finished her food, she checked her watch. There were still a few minutes left before her break ended, but it was probably best to head back early. Just as she stood up to leave, a piercing scream shattered the peaceful atmosphere. Pamela's head snapped toward the swimming pool. A young boy, no older than 6 or 7, was thrashing in the water. His small arms flailed helplessly as his head dipped beneath the surface. Gasps and frantic shouting erupted from the other patrons, but no one moved. Pamela's instincts kicked in immediately. Without thinking twice, she kicked off her shoes, threw her bag aside, and dived into the pool. The cold water shocked her system, but she pushed through it, swimming swiftly toward the boy. He had already sunk beneath the surface, his small body motionless. Pamela reached down, grabbed him around the waist, and kicked hard toward the surface. Breaking through the water, she gasped for air while pulling the boy toward the pool's edge. People were crowded around, yelling for help, but Pamela tuned them out. Her focus was solely on the boy in her arms. She laid him down carefully at the edge of the pool. His face was pale, and he wasn't breathing. Pamela's training took over. She tilted his head back and began performing CPR. "Come on, breathe," she whispered urgently, her hands pressing rhythmically on his chest as she counted under her breath. A tense silence fell over the crowd. After a few long seconds, the boy coughed, sputtering up water before gasping for breath. Relief washed over Pamela as the boy's eyes fluttered open. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Pamela sat back, catching her breath, as the boy began to cry softly. His small hand reached for her, and Pamela squeezed it gently. "You're okay now," she whispered. Suddenly, a man in a tailored suit pushed through the crowd. His face was a mixture of fear and desperation. "Oh my God!" he shouted as he knelt beside the boy. "Are you okay?" He gathered the child into his arms, holding him tightly. The man's eyes then found Pamela. You saved him," he said breathlessly, his hands trembling as he brushed the wet hair from his son's forehead. Pamela smiled softly. "He's going to be fine," she replied gently. The man stood, still holding his son, and walked toward her. "Thank you," he said, his voice full of emotion. "You saved my son's life. Please, can I have your number?" the man asked, his voice thick with emotion. Pamela hesitated for a second, then slowly gave it to him. He gently took her hand. "Please, tell me, where do you work?" "St. Mary's Hospital," Pamela replied. The man's eyes widened slightly. Thank you so much for saving my only son," he said, his voice breaking. Pamela smiled, brushing her damp hair from her face, still catching her breath. The next day, Pamela was at the hospital, tending to her patients. A colleague rushed over, breathless. "Pamela, someone's here to see you." Pamela glanced up from the chart she was updating, her brows furrowing in confusion. It had been a long morning, back-to-back rounds, administering medication, checking vitals, the usual chaos of working at the hospital. St. Mary's Hospital. Her shift was barely halfway through, and Pamela was already feeling the weight of exhaustion creeping in. A visit during work hours was unusual. Curious, she set down the chart and made her way toward the waiting area, wiping her hands on her scrubs as she walked. As she rounded the corner, her breath caught in her throat. Standing there was the man from the pool, tall, well-dressed and composed, with his young son beside him, clutching his hand. The boy's cheeks were full of color now, his eyes bright and curious as they swept over the hospital corridor. Gone was the pale, fragile child Pamela had pulled from the water just the day before. Seeing him healthy and smiling made Pamela's heart swell. The man's face lit up when he saw her. He walked toward her with a warm smile, his hand resting protectively on his son's shoulder. "Pamela," he said, his voice steady but layered with emotion. "It's good to see you." Pamela smiled, glancing down at the boy, who was now standing a little shyly behind his father's leg. "You're looking much better," she said gently. The boy gave her a small, toothy smile. The man extended an envelope toward her. "This is for you." Pamela hesitated, unsure of what to make of it. Slowly, she took the envelope and opened it. Her eyes widened. Her breath hitched. Inside was a check. Not just any check, but one for $600,000. What is this?" she stammered, her eyes darting from the check to the man's face. Surely this was a mistake. The man's expression softened. "You saved my son's life. No amount of money can repay that. But I hope this helps," he said sincerely. Pamela shook her head, her hands trembling slightly as she held the check. I can't accept this," she said, her voice low and shaky. "You can," the man insisted, stepping closer. "You deserve it." Pamela's mind raced. The previous day replayed in her head. The moment she saw the boy struggling, the icy shock of the water as she dove in, the desperation in her chest as she fought to bring him back. She hadn't thought about a reward. It was instinct. Muscle memory from years of training as a nurse. Saving lives was part of the job. But Pamela shook her head again. "This is too much." The man's eyes softened even more. "It's not enough," he said quietly. "I'm the new mayor, Pamela. I have the resources to help, and I want to. You gave me back my son. You gave me back everything. Please, let me give something back to you." Pamela's eyes widened. The mayor. Her mouth opened slightly as the pieces clicked into place. No wonder the man had seemed so composed, yet commanding. Pamela hesitated for a moment longer, glancing down at the check. The figure on the paper was almost surreal. $600,000. That was more money than she'd ever imagined holding in her hands. It could wipe out her student loans, cover years of financial security, maybe even help her fund the medical outreach program she'd always dreamed of starting. I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything," the man smiled. "Just accept it." The boy tugged on his father's hand. "Daddy, can we tell her the other thing?" he asked, his voice soft and hopeful. Pamela's gaze flicked between them, curious. The mayor crouched down beside his son and smiled. "Go ahead." The boy stepped forward hesitantly, looking up at Pamela with wide eyes. "We're opening a new children's medical center," he said. "And Daddy said, we're naming it after you." Pamela's breath caught. "What?" The mayor stood up. "It's true. You saved my son's life. And I can't think of a better way to honor that than to create a place where other children can be saved too." Pamela's hand went to her mouth. I don't know what to say." "Say yes," the mayor said with a warm smile. Pamela's heart pounded. This was more than a thank you, it was life-changing. A medical center under her name, a place where children could be treated and cared for, was more meaningful than any monetary gift. A flood of emotions overwhelmed her. Gratitude, disbelief, humility. For years, she had pushed through long hours, sleepless nights, and the emotional toll of working in the medical field, driven by the belief that her work mattered. But to have someone recognize that in such a profound way, it was almost too much to process. Pamela knelt down in front of the boy and smiled. "Thank you," she whispered. The boy's small arms wrapped around her neck, and Pamela held him tightly, blinking back tears. "You're very brave," she said softly. The mayor reached out his hand, helping Pamela to her feet. "You've changed our lives, Pamela," he said. "Now, let us change yours." Pamela took a shaky breath, then nodded. "Okay." Later that evening, Pamela sat on the small beige couch in her modest apartment, her eyes fixed on the check resting on the coffee table. The room was dimly lit by the soft glow of a floor lamp in the corner. The faint hum of city traffic drifted through the window. Outside, the night was quiet. The distant sound of passing cars and the occasional murmur of pedestrians below barely touched the stillness in the room. But inside, Pamela's mind was racing. She had been sitting there for nearly an hour, her gaze moving between the check and the message on her phone. "Thank you again, Pamela. My family is forever grateful." The text was simple, direct, but it carried a weight that settled deep in her chest. Pamela swallowed hard, her hands trembling slightly as she picked up the check once more. $600,000. The number still seemed surreal, like a mistake or a dream she'd soon wake from. But it wasn't. It was real. She leaned back against the couch, the leather cool against her skin, and let out a long breath. Her chest tightened as emotions swirled. Disbelief, gratitude, excitement, and uncertainty. She had been a nurse for 5 years. And in that time she had seen it all. The heartbreak of losing patients, the long shifts, the keyboard as she stared at the photo. It was one of her favorites, a memory frozen in time that reminded her why she kept going even on the hardest days. In the picture, Pamela stood near the center, a Santa hat crooked on her head, her scrubs wrinkled from hours on duty, but her smile was radiant. The children around her had beaming faces, some with oxygen tubes, some with bandages, but all of them had joy in their eyes. "This," she thought, "is why I do it." Her fingers trembled slightly as they moved across the screen. She clicked on the message thread and began to type. "Thank you again for today. I'd be honored to join you both for dinner." She hit send and stared at the screen for a moment, her heart full. Then slowly, her eyes drifted back to the check. $600,000. That money wasn't just life-changing for her. It was possibility. It was potential. It was impact. A soft knock at her apartment door pulled her from her thoughts. She blinked, surprised. It was late, past visiting hours for anyone she could think of. She stood, tucked the check under a book on the coffee table, and walked to the door. When she opened it, a delivery man stood with a large bouquet of white lilies and a small envelope. "For Pamela?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "Have a good evening, ma'am." She took the flowers and stepped back inside, curiosity swirling in her chest. The card was tucked neatly among the petals. She opened it carefully. "To the woman who reminded me of the power of kindness and courage. May your heart always guide you, just as it did that day by the pool. Mayor Bennett." Pamela smiled, tears quietly welling in her eyes. She had saved a life. But somehow, it felt like her own life had been saved in return. Photo still in hand, a new idea began to take shape. Quiet at first, then loud and insistent, tugging at the edges of her mind. What if this check wasn't just about her? Sure, she could pay off her student loans. Yes, she could finally take a breath without the weight of financial stress on her chest. But what if it meant more? What if this was an opportunity to build something bigger than herself? Pamela stood up, her pulse quickening as she paced the room. Her mind raced with possibilities. She had always dreamed of starting a medical outreach program, a mobile pediatric clinic that could travel to underserved communities, offering free healthcare to children and families who couldn't afford it. But that dream had always stayed tucked away, buried under layers of reality and debt. Money had been the barrier. Now, that barrier had been lifted. She grabbed a notebook from the coffee table and flipped to a blank page, her heart thudding with excitement. At the top, she wrote in bold, underlined letters, "Mobile Pediatric Clinic Proposal." She began scribbling ideas, equipment, staff, transportation, licensing. She listed needs, estimated costs, locations, potential partnerships. The numbers were still daunting, but for the first time ever, they didn't seem impossible. Not with $600,000 in hand. Her phone buzzed with a new message. It was from her friend and fellow nurse, Lisa. Pamela smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. Lisa had been by her side since nursing school. They'd shared vending machine dinners, cried over patients they couldn't save, and celebrated the victories, no matter how small. Pamela stared at the check again. This wasn't just about her life changing. It was about changing others' lives. About giving back. About doing more. Her phone buzzed again, this time a call. She glanced at the screen. Mayor Bennett. She hesitated, then swiped to answer. "Hello, Pamela," came his warm, familiar voice. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." "Not at all," she replied, still holding her notebook. I was thinking." "I'm glad," the mayor said. "Because I have a proposition for you, something more than a thank you." Pamela's heart skipped a beat. "I'm listening," she said softly. Pamela's eyes welled with tears as she took in the sight before her. Weeks of planning, meetings, sleepless nights, and tireless work had led her here, to this very moment. The ribbon was cut, the doors opened, and behind her, the hum of excited voices filled the air. Staff, patients, families, all of them there to witness something that had once seemed impossible. The new Children's Medical Center was more than just a building. It was a symbol of hope, or dream. She stood at the front, the mayor at her side. His face filled with pride. The same little boy who she had saved that day at the pool, his bright eyes wide with excitement, was now holding his father's hand as they made their way through the crowd. Pamela smiled at the sight of the boy, who was now healthier and happier than ever. His life had changed that day, and so had hers. As the crowd cheered, she felt a lump form in her throat. It wasn't the applause that made her heart swell, but the knowledge that this wasn't just about her. It was about the children who would now have access to health care, to medical care that they had been denied before. This center would change the lives of so many families in need. It was the realization of her dreams, a dream that had felt so far out of reach, but now was a beautiful reality. The mayor stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You've done it, Pamela," he said with a proud smile. "This center, it's your legacy. You've saved more lives than you know." Pamela turned to look at him, her eyes filled with gratitude and humility. "I couldn't have done it alone. It was all of us working together." The boy tugged on the mayor's sleeve, his wide eyes shining. "Is she going to be here more? Can she visit us?" Pamela knelt down, her heart full of warmth. She placed a gentle hand on the boy's head. "I'll visit whenever I can. This place is for you, and for all the children who need help." The boy smiled brightly, and she felt a wave of emotion wash over her. This was the reason she had become a nurse, to make a difference. And she had done just that. As the sun continued to rise over the new center, Pamela knew that her work was far from over. But she wasn't the same woman she had been before. She wasn't just the tired nurse battling exhaustion and debt anymore. She was a hero, not because of what she had done for that little boy, but because of what she had created, what she had given back to the world. And as the doors of the Children's Medical Center opened wide, so too did the doors to her future. A future filled with hope, with purpose, and with the possibility of changing countless more lives, one child at a time. Pamela looked around at the new medical center, at the staff preparing for the day ahead, and then back at the smiling faces of the families arriving. She breathed deeply, her heart full. This was just the beginning. And it all started with one brave act, one life saved. Filled with pride, this center will save countless lives, Pamela. You're the reason this dream became a reality. You are more than a nurse. You are a life changer. Pamela feels a rush of emotions wash over her. Gratitude, disbelief, and a deep sense of fulfillment. A place like this hadn't existed before, not for families who had nowhere else to turn. But now, it was here because of that one fateful decision to dive into the pool and save a life. As she looks around at the playground, children running and laughing, their bright faces beaming with life, she knows that this is where her purpose truly lies. Not in the long hospital shifts, not in the exhaustion, but in this, building something greater than herself, a place where children could simply be children and grow up healthy and strong. The boy still holds her hand, his small fingers firmly wrapped around hers as he leads her toward a group of children playing on the swings. The sound of their laughter rings through the air like music, and Pamela smiles. "Can you come play with us?" the boy asks, tugging at her hand with excitement. Pamela laughs, shaking her head gently. "I wish I could, but I have to make sure everything here runs smoothly. But I'll visit again soon, I promise." He nods solemnly, then breaks into a grin. "I'll wait for you," he says proudly. As the boy runs off to join his friends, Pamela stands there, her heart swelling with a sense of peace she's never known. She's not just a nurse anymore. She's a symbol of hope for all those who need it most. She's a part of something that will outlive her, something that will touch lives for generations to come. The mayor watches her for a moment, sensing her quiet reflection. "Pamela," he says softly, "I hope you know just how much this means to so many people." Pamela turns to him, her eyes brimming with tears. "I never imagined it would turn out like this. I just did what I had to do." The mayor smiles knowingly. "And that's what makes you extraordinary." As the sun dips lower in the sky, casting a golden glow over the center, Pamela feels a sense of completion. The road ahead will be long, filled with challenges and obstacles, but she's ready for it. She's no longer just a nurse. She's a creator of change, a provider of hope, and most importantly, someone who has found her true calling. This, she realizes, is just the beginning. Care who might not be so lucky. I couldn't ignore that. That was when I realized I had to do something more than just my daily work. This center. It's for all the kids who need it most. The reporter nods, impressed by Pamela's sincerity. It's incredible how one act of courage can lead to something so life-changing. How do you feel now that this center is finally open? Pamela looks around the bustling scene, the happy chatter of families and the laughter of children filling the air. It's overwhelming, but in the best possible way. "It's surreal," she says, her voice thick with emotion. "This place is bigger than me. It's for all the children who will walk through those doors and get the care they deserve. It's for the families who won't have to choose between medicine and food. And it's for the doctors and nurses who want to make a difference." She takes a deep breath, her heart swelling with pride. None of this would have been possible without the support of the community, the mayor, and the incredible team here. It was a dream, and now it's a reality. I couldn't be more grateful. The mayor steps forward, standing beside Pamela as the reporter shifts their attention to him. He smiles warmly, his pride in Pamela unmistakable. Pamela's vision and determination are what made this happen. She didn't just save my son's life. She saved countless others, and she'll continue to do so with this center. The crowd applauds, and Pamela feels a warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she hadn't known before. She's not just a nurse anymore. She's a change-maker, a catalyst for hope. She glances at Lisa, who gives her a thumbs up again from the edge of the crowd, and Pamela's heart swells with gratitude for her friend's unwavering support. A small voice pulls her back to the present. The boy, the one she saved, is standing by the entrance with his father. He's holding a colorful balloon, and his eyes light up as they meet Pamela's gaze. "Are you coming to play with us now?" the boy asks, his face full of excitement. Pamela laughs softly, her heart full. "I wish I could," she says, bending down to his level. "But there's still so much to do here. But I'll visit you again soon, I promise." The boy beams, then tugs his father's hand eagerly. "We're going to come visit you too," he says, running off to join the other children. Pamela watches them go, a wave of emotion washing over her. She's created something lasting, something that will outlive her, a place where children will find not only medical care but also love, support, and hope. It's a legacy she never imagined, but it's one she's proud to leave behind. As the crowd continues to celebrate, Pamela allows herself a moment of peace. This was just the beginning, and no matter what challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them. With a heart full of purpose and a team behind her, Pamela knew that they would continue to make a difference, one life at a time. She looks up at the center, a building that stands as a testament to what courage and kindness can accomplish. And for the first time in a long while, Pamela feels the weight of everything she's been through replaced by something even more powerful, a sense of fulfillment, knowing that this was only the start of something even greater. Pamela stood there for a long while, lost in thought as the gentle hum of the night city settled around her. The story of her life had taken a turn she never saw coming. What had started with a single moment of courage had blossomed into something far bigger than she could have imagined. She knew there would be challenges ahead, but for the first time she felt prepared. She wasn't alone anymore. She had a team behind her, a community supporting her, and the certainty that this was her path. With the drawing still pressed to her chest, Pamela took one final look at the illuminated sign above the entrance to the Children's Medical Center. A small smile played on her lips. This was only the beginning. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and we love hearing from our viewers. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us create even more inspiring and engaging stories. Be sure to let us know what you think about Pamela's journey and how her actions touched your heart. Whether you connected with her bravery or felt inspired by the impact she made on her community, we want to hear from you. If you enjoyed this story, give it a rating from 1 to 10 and let us know where you're watching from. We always love seeing how far our stories reach. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest content. Thanks for being part of our story, and we can't wait to share more with you soon.